All right, good afternoon, Jefferson Middle School. There's about a 10-second delay between when we go live here and when it streams into the classroom, so I'm killing a little bit of time to make sure that everyone's getting it and checking to see if the phone starts ringing off the hook. But since I've been talking for about 10 seconds here and the phone is not ringing, I think we are good to go. All right, oh, there goes the phone. Well, welcome to the first day at Jefferson Middle School. I think we're going to keep going. So, welcome to the first day at Jefferson Middle School. Mr. Wilhelm and I are going to talk a little bit about the honor level, the honor code. All advisories should have printouts of the honor code so for students to sign and get any feedback from. So, when we're done, advisory teachers, please read over the appropriate sections and have students initial. I want to start today by talking about our full access initiative. I sent home a message last week to parents, and we talked to the school board about it last week as well. At the end of last year, we had a number of Chromebooks in the building, and 7th and 8th graders know how many devices we had in the building, and we were really close to having what's called a 1-to-1 ratio, which means you have one Chromebook for every one student. We purchased some more Chromebooks over the summer, and we do have a 1-to-1 ratio now, and so we're going to be implementing what is called full access. That means that every student will have access to a Chromebook every single day of the year. Actually, you'll be checking out Chromebooks in your advisory, and you'll be carrying them to all of your classes throughout the day, and you'll be checking them in advisory at the end of the day. So we've added 5 minutes after when. So I'm going to talk to you about that over the next few days, and I'm going to add a few different details each day. I'm going to start with the end of the day routine for students. So what you need to understand is your Chromebook will be labeled, and it'll have your name and your advisor name, and it also has an ID tag so we know which Chromebook is assigned to you. At the end of the day, you will take your Chromebook after WIN class. You will go directly to your advisory. You will not go back to your locker. You will not put anything in your locker. You will just go right from WIN to your advisory class because there's only 1 minute of passing time. When you get back to your advisory class, you will plug in your Chromebook into the appropriate slot. You'll make sure it's charged for the next day, and then your teacher might go over homework or anything else that's going on just as kind of a checkout. So I'm going to repeat the expectation again. After WIN class, you will be going directly to advisory, and this is going to start on Friday. Couple other things, just a big picture things. There will be a cart, maybe 2 outside of gym class. So if you're going to PE with Mr. Miller or Mr. Mooney, you will put your Chromebook in one of the carts outside in the hallway, and then you'll just go into gym. And before you come down for lunch and recess, you'll put your Chromebook in your locker, and you'll lock that up, and then you'll go to lunch and recess. So you won't be having your Chromebook either in gym or in recess or lunch. And after WIN class, you go directly to advisory without going to your locker first. That's what I wanted to say about full access for today. The next piece I want to talk about is honor code and exiting the building. So the honor code is a packet of statements on how to do things the right way. It's called the Jefferson way. And Mr. Wilhelm and myself will be going over the different components of the honor code over the next 3 days, either on the computer as we're doing now, or maybe during your lunch times, or maybe I think tomorrow and the next day we have a little snippets in the morning while we'll be talking to you in the cafeteria. And we're going to be going over the things that are important to do in school and do it the right way, how to do things the right way. It's called the Jefferson way, and there is an honor code. After each mini lesson, there will be a statement that you'll read with your advisor, and you'll go back and you'll initial it, and we'll keep that on file so that in the beginning of the school year, we've taught you the right way to do things and the expectations we have here at the middle school. One of the expectations that we'll be implementing, I guess, in about a half hour from now, 35 minutes or so, is exiting the building. So at the end of the school day, we have 3 different exits, and they're specific for the ways that we want you to leave the building. If you are getting on the bus, you will be going out the south side, and you'll be waiting out in that area until the buses arrive. We do have staff out there that will help direct you, but basically it's about a 10 or 15 minute wait until all the buses are there. Please pay attention not to the bus numbers, but the bus route numbers that are in black and white on the side of the bus. They have little placards, so those can change in and out. If they have a bus go down, they can switch to another bus, and it'll still have your route number printed right on the side. That is anyone riding a bus. Opposite that, on our north side, with the big circle, is for folks that are getting picked up by car. So if you've got a family member picking you up in a car, you're going to go out the north side. The number one rule for students is you're not to cross the yellow line. We've got a huge long loop, and it only takes about 10 minutes at the end of the day. So there's no need to rush. You should not be crossing traffic to get to the parking lot. If for some reason you do need to go to the parking lot, and that's where your pickup is, I have someone that maybe someone broke a foot that's driving and they can't get out of the car easily, and you need to go across there. You need to use the crosswalk, and you need to wait until the supervisor says it's okay. There's usually a supervisor right there. Okay, there's a lot of traffic that comes through, and if the cars are parked where they should, you're probably coming through cars, and that's a safety issue. So please have the people picking you up stay on inside the yellow line, or I guess on the outside of the yellow line. You should not cross the yellow line, and you should just get in the car and go there. If you can encourage whoever to keep pulling forward as far as they can, we really can get out of here in under 10 minutes. The last group are students that are walking. Actually, there's two more. But if you're walking, you're going to go out the east doors, which is by the art room and the tech ed lab. So all walkers should go out the east doors by the tech ed lab and art room, and you will just simply go straight across. There is a crosswalk right there, so you can walk straight out our doors, straight across over to the high school, and over to where the high school baseball field is there, and then you could either go right or left. Please note you are not allowed to cross behind the high school. So if you go across the street and you go left, you have to go all the way down to the end of the street if you want to continue. Not allowed to go back behind the high school. And then lastly, if you're riding a bike or a scooter or a skateboard, those are all locked up back by the bus area. Those students can walk back there as if they're getting on a bus, unlock their bike, their scooter, their skateboard, and then you're walking your transportation while you're on school grounds. So we're not riding our bikes through the parking lot or on the sidewalk. We're just walking the bikes until we're out off of school grounds and where we need to be. So that's a little bit about full access, the honor code, and school exiting. And now to Mr. Wilharm.
So the honor code being the overriding thing that we're using to guide our decisions during the school day. We definitely want to create an atmosphere, and our staff will absolutely do this, recognizing your positive choices and your positive contributions to our school day. The honor level system gives us the ability to have the expectations in place, and you know in advance what the consequences are going to be for when you choose not to follow those positive expectations. So the honor level system is in place for 7th and 8th graders. You will find that it's the same expectations as last year, the same system as last year, following the guidelines that we've established in the past. But the honor level system is really based on positive choices. And having the way that we acknowledge when the negative choices are made is a way for us to help you, to point out when things aren't being done correctly, and that you will fix them and move forward from that as well. So the poor behaviors, your advisors will talk to you as the week continues about the specific things that are listed on the infraction slip. I don't want to read those to you right now. I can tell you that we break those into 3 categories: 1-point infractions, 3-point infractions, or 5-point infractions. 1-point infractions, and a point means a demerit. And I'll explain the honor level levels in just a moment. But 1-point infractions are those daily things, the things that are expected of you on just a class-by-class basis, getting to class on time, bringing the proper materials to class. And then the big one that's a 1-point infraction is you are expected to do your homework, and choosing not to do your homework is a negative choice. Okay, it is something that you will eventually receive an infraction for. Now your teachers will talk to you about that and talk to you about when they will be implementing the infractions, but doing homework is not optional at Jefferson Middle School. Doing homework is an expectation to help you be the best student that you can be and to help prepare you for eventually going to high school. So the expectation is that work that's assigned is to be completed, and it's not optional. So a choice not to do homework has a negative consequence associated with it. 3 and 5 point infractions are the ways that we behave in class, the way that we treat each other, the way that we treat the building, that we're taking care of our facilities in the proper manner, and those choices are addressed through the 3 and the 5 point infractions. So honor levels, you are all on honor level 1 today, so congratulations. That means that you have no points, and in this system you don't want points. You want to stay at 0. And I would like to point out right now that the history of us with the honor level, we know that 60 to 70% of you will have honor level 1 the entire year. You will not receive an infraction. And I have no doubt that that will continue this year. In fact, it may even be better this year. That's always our goal. So a great majority of you just won't have infractions because you make the choices that keep you from getting into that area. Once you start to receive infractions, honor level 2, that's when you have a point total of 1 to 10 points. Honor level 3 is 11 to 20 points. Honor level 4 is over 20 points. So 1 point infractions automatically put you into honor level 2. And for every 1 point infraction that you receive, it changes your clock. And what they mean by the clock is that honor level status changes on a 7 or a 14-day window. A 7-day window applies to the 1 point infractions. So what that means is, if on a Monday you receive an infraction for missing homework, once that infraction is entered, you have 7 days before you return back to honor level 1. So 1 point infractions take 7 days, and once you go back, that infraction is in effect gone. It stays on the list in terms of our records, but after 7 days, 1 point infractions are done. 3 and 5 point infractions take 14 days. And these are calendar days, not school days. So weekends count, holidays count, vacations count as days. And that 7 and 14-day window, it's based on research that says what we should be able to expect middle school students in terms of their accountability for the choices they've made, and that we're not holding you accountable for those choices for an extended period of time. Again, being late to class, not doing homework, not bringing materials to class, that's your 7-day window. The choices of how we choose to treat each other negatively or not taking care of the building, following lunch rules, those are 14 days. Whether you move up in those levels depends on the choices that you make and the infractions you receive. The consequences associated with this remain again the same as last year. For any 1 point infraction, the consequence is always a 15-minute noon consequence. So 1 point infractions are always 15-minute noon consequences, and they do not accumulate. So we don't add up the 1 pointers. You stay on that 7-day window though. If you continue to get 1 point infractions, your window never closes. To put it in the sense that if I keep getting 1 point infractions, I never get back to honor level 1. That's because you keep getting 1 point infractions. The 3 and the 5 point infractions do accumulate. That's how you do end up moving up through the consequences. So again, 3 and 5 point infractions start with a 15-minute noon consequence. And then for the next 14 days, during that time, from the time you got the first infraction, if you continue to get 3 or 5 point infractions, you move up in consequence. 30-minute noon consequence is the second. 30-minute MASH is the third. 40-minute MASH, or excuse me, 25-minute MASH is the third level. 40-minute MASH for level 4, and then eventually in-school suspension will be level 5. Now, our goal is to not have anyone reach those levels, but by telling you this ahead of time, we're just letting you know that this is predetermined, these are the expectations, and you should want to know that. And I hope that in making choices like this, maybe this is a little bit of a deterrent, that you don't want to get new consequences, that you don't want to stay after school. That's what MASH stands for, mandatory after-school homework. And in-school suspension means you're out of classes. I'm calling parents. We're taking care of the things that need to take care of in order to turn this around. And I can tell you, after being here for the time that I've been here, we very often do turn it around. And that's always our goal, is to have things be positive and have you make positive choices that help yourself and help others that are around you. Okay? So as we continue through this week, your questions, if you have any, will continue to be answered. If you ever have any specific questions regarding the honor level system, I'm happy to answer those. Our teaching staff also is very good at answering the questions with regard to this system.
Thank you. All right, I have a little bit to talk about with assembly behavior. And in middle school, at this point, if you're in 6th grade, you've already been through 6 years of school. Our 8th graders and 7th graders even longer. So explaining the assembly expectations is not something we have to spend a lot of time on, because really you know how to behave. But what I do want to clarify is that it is important to be a good audience, it's important to be respectful, and that looks a little bit different depending on the assembly that you have. For example, at the end of the year, we'll have a staff versus student basketball game. We'll expect the audience to be good sports, have good sportsmanship, but it's also an assembly where you're allowed to cheer and clap and yell and have fun. Similar to the fundraiser, we'll have a fundraiser assembly tomorrow afternoon at the end of the day. Miss Liz will be here, and there's times in that assembly where you need to be quiet and listen, but most of the time it's kind of an upbeat, loud music, cheering, having fun, responding to the presenter. On the flip side, we have a Veterans Day program that we do every year that is much more quiet, we show our respect by honoring our veterans, and that's a more somber yet very, very happy event. And that's not one with loud music and cheering and yelling. That's one where we're paying our respects. Similarly, when we have a play, or even our talent show, we're quiet, good audience members that are not making a lot of noise. Please keep in mind that in an assembly or at a play, it is a live event. It's not a movie. So the people on stage, excuse me, or the people doing the presentation can also hear you. So we expect good behavior, respectful behavior, and I fully believe that you know what that means at this point. With that being said, I'm going to ask 7th and 8th grade, go ahead and keep your computers on and just hold tight for a second. 6th grade, we are going to have you go down to either the band room or the choir room, and I'll tell you where that is now. 7th and 8th grade, hold on. 6th grade, I would like these advisories to go to the choir room right now. Mrs. Mallory's advisory, Mrs. Hafes, Mr. Peterson, and Mrs. Nelson. Could you please take your advisories down to the choir room? And remember, we're all heading into the east doors when we get to that point. So Mallory, Haft, Peterson, and Nelson, please head on down to the choir room. In the band room, the 6th grade advisories that we'll be organizing in the band room are Mrs. Flatt, Mrs. Stias, Mrs. Anzac, Mrs. Perkins, and Mrs. Sabaka. So Sabaka, Perkins, Anzac, Stias, and Flatt. Please head down to the band room. 7th and 8th grade, hold tight. 6th grade advisories, please head down and turn off your computers.
Okay, Ed?
Sure.
You got time?
We got 7th and 8th grader.
7th and 8th grade, that's who I need. Volleyball. I'll be meeting during the lunch periods tomorrow with 7th and 8th grade volleyball players to talk about practice. Practice begins on Thursday. So start planning to bring your things with you on Thursday. Also, if you don't know, you may want to check with Mrs. Mailing on what the status is of the paperwork you need to complete in order to be eligible to play volleyball. But I'll meet with volleyball players during lunch tomorrow. Cross country, Mr. Koleski has been preparing and is ready to go tonight, I believe, for those that are ready to practice. If you are not ready to practice tonight, but you want to be on the cross country team, I would suggest you stop in the cafeteria and talk to Mr. Koleski tonight.
Excellent. All right, 7th and 8th grade advisories. I will dismiss you shortly. This is our welcome celebration for 6th graders. The point of this assembly is really just to cheer for the 6th graders and welcome them in. For those of you that started here at JMS as 6th graders, you probably remember it. Our outgoing 8th graders every year at either our promotion or our 8th grade dance often will talk to me about remembering that first time that they walked into the gym and everyone was cheering and the music was loud and there was excitement and they felt a little scared but also really excited. This is our chance to really welcome the new 6th graders, to be very positive and our way of giving back a little bit to let them start their experience in a positive way. For those of you that might remember a year or just 2 years ago, coming to the middle school with new faces, there's a mix of students from different schools, can be scary. And it's really a time of going from elementary to your secondary schooling, middle and high school. So this is an opportunity to be very positive, welcome them back. We'll have music. I'll announce the advisories, the sixth grade advisories as they come in. You guys cheer for them. You can cheer for the advisor, call their names, that type of thing. Just be loud and be positive.
And are we using our new sound system?
And we are using our new sound system.
Awesome.
So we'll see how that works. And the gym has a new sound system. We do have, there we are. We do have assignments. So I'm going to call the advisories, and I'm going to call them from the top row back down. So if you hear your advisor called, can you guys scoop pretty quick? Because we're going to try and get down there all within a few minutes here so we can get started. So, excuse me. Right now, if Mrs. Zukowski, Mrs. Van Meter, Mrs. Baker, and Mr. Altermack, can you please bring your advisories down to the gym? Can hear the echo. All right, that's about 15 seconds. After that, could we please have Mrs. Traver, Mrs. Coleman, Mr. Rux, and Mrs. Dinkle please bring your advisories down to the gym. Mr. Utri, there was a famous announcer at the Soldier Field that would always say, "There's a timeout on the field." Always had that pause. So that's why I try and say things like, Mrs. Schultz, Mr. Auer, Mrs. Weisensel, and Mr. Matuszewski, please bring your advisories to the gym. Little Bears trivia.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lambo.
Lastly, but surely not least, don't call me Shirley, Mr. Mooney, almost Mrs. Dresdo, Mrs. Teets, Ms. Schrader, and Mrs. Clevin, please bring your advisories to the gym. Thank you, everyone. We are out. See you shortly.